Welcome. My name is Miss November Girl, and today I'm going to be talking all about sewing patterns. You might have heard about what sewing patterns are, or you may not have heard about it. I understand because I didn't know about sewing patterns till I had started learning freehand sewing. So, if you don't know about sewing patterns, I'm going to show you the different types of sewing patterns that there are. And then, if you know about sewing patterns, maybe I'll help you to know about other ways you can use sewing patterns or places you can get sewing patterns that you haven't thought of before. Let's get started. These four, the big four sewing pattern companies are commercial sewing patterns. So this is Simplicity, Vogue patterns, McCall's patterns, and Butterick patterns. You can find them online and get them in sewing stores. I think in the US, the Joann stores carry them. In Canada, you can buy them from Fabricland. They come with an instruction booklet. This instruction booklet tells you how to make this and what they're selling in this pattern at this shirt. So you can get it in the long sleeve or in the short sleeve. And it comes with paper like this. You can either cut it out or trace it out. And it's really light, but it can handle a lot of heat, so you can iron it out to make it flat. We have independent pattern designers, so they are not part of the big four. Most of them are sewists, people who love to sew, who have started their companies. We have this by Hand London, and this is Dare and Do. Most time they come with a booklet too. Dare and Do is a French sewing pattern company, so there's the English version for instructions and there's the French version. And this is how the pattern comes. The paper is different, but it still works, and you can trace or you can cut this paper. Most independent pattern companies use this type of paper. Most of them do. I don't think I've seen any that use a different type of paper. So to my knowledge, most of them use this type of paper. We have sewing magazines. This is La Maison Victor. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's out of print. And we've got Fiber Mode. They are still in print. These sewing magazines, you can get sewing patterns in them. You're wondering, how do I get sewing pattern? They look very different. It comes in a booklet most times in in it, and this looks confusing, but really it's not, because they've color coded it so you can trace out the pattern that you want from this. So most times the magazines come showing you all the patterns that are within the sewing magazine. With sewing magazines, most times you have to trace out. You wouldn't really have the option of cutting it out because you can cut through other patterns that you might want to sew later. So most times you trace out from this, and if you look here, it's the same thing. It's just tracing out to get what you want. The last one I'll talk about today will be sewing books. This is a sewing book. It's from Tilly and the button. This is a British sewing pattern designer. She sells um single patterns, and she also sells pattern books. So this, most times, like books like this, they come with a pattern, but they also come with more instructions, not just the sewing instructions, but probably care instructions for the type of fabric you are going to use. Like this book is talking about stretch fabric, so there's a lot of information here on how to sew with stretch fabric, how to care for it, what type of needles, things like that. Information you need to know about stretch fabric is in here. Most times there's an envelope with the book, and the instructions are within the book, so it's almost similar to the magazines, that it will be advisable to trace out rather than cut out patterns from this, so you can give the book to someone else when you are no more using it, or someone else can use it and return it back to you. Either way, you still have your book intact with the patterns in it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed learning about sewing patterns. And just a recap, we talked about the big four sewing patterns, independent pattern designers, sewing magazines, and we talked about sewing books. Let me know which of these you've used before, what is your preference, and if you've never heard about this before. I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments. See you here again next week. Bye.